Welcome to the Authority File, the podcast that features conversations about the life cycle of scholarly communication. I'm Bill Mickey, your host and the editorial director at Choice. In this 4-episode series, which is generously underwritten by Springer Nature, we're discussing how Springer's publishing operation, particularly in the STEM field, is evolving to meet the requirements of open access while managing the opportunities and challenges posed by artificial intelligence. Joining me to talk through this is Harmen Ben-Paradis, Vice President, STM Books Publishing and Books Business Optimization at Springer Nature. But before we get started, if you want to keep up on the latest programming from the Authority File, you can subscribe to our monthly newsletter for information on the current and previous month's episodes. To subscribe, simply visit choice360.org, click on the newsletter sign-up banner in the top right corner, and select the Choice Podcast Updates option. While you're there, you can also sign up for other newsletters published by Choice. In this first episode of our series, we're introduced to the broader publishing innovations at Springer, how the goals of OA align with that innovation, and how the publisher is scaling to meet digital publishing demand. Okay, Harmen, welcome to the program.
Well, thanks, Bill. Happy to be here.
Excellent. So to start, broadly speaking, how is Springer approaching innovative publishing strategy in the sciences? Where are these innovations seen in the publishing process itself? For example, editing or marketing or communications with authors and so on.
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's not a recent topic. It's not a recent, not something we've done recently. It's been going on for years,
Right.
and really, right at the outset of Springer being formed, and later on, of course, the merger with Macmillan Education, forming Springer Nature. We've really been at the forefront trying to work with our authors and the research communities to make sure that we provide tools for them to be as effective as they can be. This comes down to things like automation, delivery of manuscript, for example, providing a manuscript portal where authors upload their manuscripts. And that's becoming much more popular nowadays, where, in the past, authors used to send in their manuscripts in paper format, boxes arriving at the office, and then email coming in, everybody thinking, this is really, wonderful. But that's not a thing anymore. You really need to move ahead and be as quick as possible, not burdening systems that are not meant for that. For example, email is not meant for huge file transfer.
Right.
And that's just one example. But also lately, and very recently, actually, the European Accessibility Act has come into play, where each and every book needs to have alternative text for the images that are part of the book.
Right.
And that is a content question. And then to go back to the author and say, well, this is content, you need to write this. It's another task for the authors. So what we've done is we produced an AI tool that actually generates the alt text for the author as a proposal to the author, where they could simply accept that alternative text that's generated by the tool, or they could use it as a basis to actually further to refine it, and then submit it with their manuscript. So, these are some things that we really look for to really help the author to make sure that they can be as efficient as possible, lighten their admin load, if you will, because they're there primarily to do research. Probably secondary is teaching. Probably admin for their departments or their universities. So producing a manuscript, it's a big task.
Right.
So taking away some of those, let's call it low-level tasks, low-level chores, very much helps them.
Yeah, I can see that. So, using the alt text as an example, when in the process does that happen? Like, does the author upload their manuscript and images, and then the AI kicks in at that point, or is there some?
No, it's even earlier in
Okay.
the process. So during their manuscript, when they're writing their manuscript, during the writing, of course, they don't. It's not all set, but once they have their draft manuscript finished,
Mm.
they would know the images that they have. So then
Yeah.
they're able to access the tool during, let's say the final stages of completing the manuscript.
Okay.
They would have access to the tool. They're able to upload their images in batches,
Hmm.
and then within minutes, the text is generated.
Hmm.
Um, they're able to check it, or they're able to say, well, that's fine, go ahead, or able to use that text and rewrite it to a degree. Um, some books just have a few images, so that's very quick. Other books might have, 100, 150 out of the total number of books that we publish. So we publish about 14,000 books a year, both English and German.
Hmm.
Uh, it's 1.5 million images a year. So you can
Wow.
imagine how big of a task that is. I mean, it's if you spread that across all the different authors, it's a large number of images. So
Yeah.
really to help them out there.
Yeah. Excellent. Perfect. So earlier this year, Springer revealed that it had reached its goal of publishing half of its primary research open access. I'm just curious, what kind of methods did the Springer employ to reach this milestone? And then how do the goals of OA align with innovation and evolution in STM publishing?
Good question. So this goal that was reached is on the journal article, end.
Okay.
I wish it would be the case for books. We're not there yet, but I can answer that anyway. I think on the journals end, it's a couple of things. It's providing the outlets. Of course, the journals need to be open to open access, so
Right.
dedicated open access journals or hybrid for that matter. Um, but also making sure that there's a connection with the funding,
Hmm.
authors being aware where the funding actually is, and probably a third element, and that's been going on for the last couple of years, are the transformative agreements, where the license deals with universities or consortia change from purely reading to publishing and reading. And that's been an innovation that's really happened on the Springer Nature side.
Hmm.
Um, for books, it's a little bit different. Funding is a little bit different. There are some national funders, for example, in Austria and Switzerland, where they've got pretty big pots of money. So it's really also for OA books connecting with the funders, even more so educating the authors on that there is a university fund or there's a national fund that they can tap into.
Gotcha.
Matching, those authors and their affiliations with the funders. That's a huge task because it's not always very transparent.
Mm.
And different licenses, OA licenses, are not always completely known. Different requirements by the different funds are there. So there's quite a lot of things that need to go on. I guess on the innovation part, I would say, and I kind of already alluded to it, it's making the authors aware of where the funding is,
Right.
because it doesn't or it shouldn't change the content of a book, because the content should not be any different.
Right.
But finding the funding, leading them towards the funding is crucial.
Yeah.
And I guess we can still make quite a lot of steps there to help them find that funding and to tap into that funding.
Is the funding landscape different than in the for books than it is for journals? I mean, is it less obvious, I guess, for the authors to find it?
Well, I think there's a couple of elements within journals, journal articles. It's much more. It was first.
Yeah.
That's where it came out first. So authors are much more used to it. Funders are used to it. Universities are used to it. There's a whole journal landscape. Um, for books, books are discrete units, if you will.
Right.
They're one to one. They're acquired or commissioned one to one, so it's a longer relationship
Right.
with the editors, our in-house editors. So it's not immediately known to the author, like, well, this should be open access, or I can make it open access. So it's really steering them towards the opportunities and towards the funds that are available.
Right. Okay. Um, and then wondering if whether Springer is looking at like other open publishing strategies to implement, open data might be a good example there.
Yeah, I guess very broadly speaking, I mean, we support open science. I think that's the overarching umbrella, if you will, as much as we can make things open. Or another way to say it is make things transparent. If there's data associated with a journal article or with a book, where does that come from? Where is it housed? Where is it available? We've still got a long way to go. So absolutely supporting open science, open data, open access, but it's many different areas that we need to work on. And then, especially again with books, it's the one-to-one relationship where you need to educate the author or inform the author. Maybe educate might be a little bit too heavy-handed. Inform the author, communicate with the author what the options and possibilities are.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I imagine, I think we've talked a little bit about this, but like when compared to the humanities, STEM publishing tends to be a little bit more agile and fast moving, which creates bigger demand for digital works. It creates more digital works. Um, can you talk a little bit more about the book publishing part of the business, digital book publishing, and specifically in the sciences? Do you see that same kind of demand? And then are you meeting that demand with sort of an evolving innovative strategy for book publishing?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting topic where from the outset at Springer Nature, we've not made a distinction between humanities, social sciences, and the sciences or STM authorship or authors or disciplines.
Right.
Every book that we publish is available as an ebook and in print.
Okay.
So we've not made a distinction. Well, because the sciences are more agile or quicker, we'll make those books available as ebooks. No, everybody, and it does tap into the whole access question. I mean, you don't want to
Right.
hold back HSS books from being distributed electronically because everybody should have access to it.
Right.
The other side, though, is the academics or the researchers within the sciences are more open or more used to the technology in general. So if for them it's a given, if you will, whereas on the HSS side, the unit very often would still be the print book. So those are really the two differences that I can see. In the sciences, yeah, people expect that. in humanities, social sciences, some authors would need to be convinced
Right.
that digital is really the way to go. Usually in the sciences, we don't need to convince authors, especially at obvious, but especially in computer sciences and in physics and chemistry, where authors are doing a lot of work on their manuscripts in LaTeX. They're used to coding, they're used to programming, they're used to sharing, file sharing, archive, of course, being there. They like to communicate that way in the electronic format.
Yep, exactly. You just heard from Harmen Van Paradis, Vice President, STM Books Publishing and Books Business Optimization at Springer Nature. Join us next week when we talk about the AI tools authors and Springer are using that assist with the research workflow. This series is underwritten with generous support from Springer Nature. Remember, if you want to keep up on the latest programming from the Authority File, you can subscribe to our monthly newsletter for information on the current and previous month's episodes. To subscribe, simply visit choice360.org, click on the newsletter sign-up banner in the top right corner, and select the Choice Podcast Updates option. While you're there, you can also sign up for other newsletters published by Choice. The Authority File podcast is brought to you every week by a small but extraordinary team, including Choice's advertising manager, Pam Marino, digital media producer, Sabrina Kofer, and digital media assistant, Ashley Roy. That's all for this week. Thanks for joining us.